What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how you can sell your agency. Yes, you can sell agencies, but it's actually going to be agencies. So let's dive into this. So most beginners think, oh yeah, I can sell my agency, I have clients, I'm making money, but in reality, they don't run an agency, they're just freelancing, they're 9 to 5, right? So most people are just one-man show. If you don't have any team, you don't actually have an agency, unless you have all the process fully automated, SOPs, everything, and your actual input is not a 9 to 5, it's not 6, 7, 8 hours a day. That's a job, not an agency, right? Another thing most people do is shoot in the dark. So they think, oh yeah, I want to sell this, I want to sell that. Let me try do lead gen. Let me try do social media marketing. Oh wait, actually I'm going to do just content. Oh wait, I'm going to do emails now. This is just shooting in the dark. You don't actually have an agency, you're just beginner entrepreneur. And then another thing that goes back to shooting in the dark, they just service whatever client they have. So let's say you run a content agency and then one of your friends refer you a client for paid emails. You don't want to service this client, but just not a part of the agency, otherwise it doesn't really make sense. Another thing is most people, they don't have proven SOPs. So you want to follow a standard operating protocol that works every single time. I understand it takes time and I understand it's trial and error, but eventually you have to have everything figured out, not to the full extent, but to an extent where a buyer can take over your agency and actually operate it as you did and grow it further. Or for instance, hire VAs, hire a team if you haven't already, which I will get to in a second. Another thing is just people don't stick with one thing long enough. So they start an email agency, they start content agency, they start a management agency, and they don't stick long enough for this to work. And here's what a pro does. So a pro actually has a team. Now you don't need to hire full-time employees, you don't need to pay their taxes, pay employment benefits and so on. Those people, they can be from Latin America. I highly recommend Latin America, especially Argentina, because those people, they have European work ethic while the currency is very weak. So you can get a very good value for your money. Another thing is a pro knows what he's doing. So he doesn't just shoot in the dark. He knows, I need to get these clients, this is my ICP, and this is what I'm offering them. And they actually have a very strong offer, like I'm gonna get you 30 clients and you don't pay anything to me until they pay. And I don't need to go over what's a good offer. You can simply search on YouTube, Alex Hormozi, stuff like this. This is for exit, right? I'm not gonna teach you how to run an agency. The second thing is they have actual proven SOPs. So again, they know what they're doing. They know, okay, this is how I onboard leads. This is how I treat inbound clients. This is how I'm doing outreach. This is how I'm servicing those clients. So everything has its own SOP. They're following, their team is following it, and they don't change much. Yes, they can improve it, they can do this, they can do that, but at the end of the day, they stick to this operating protocol. Another very important thing is having good history of returning clients, right? You don't want to onboard one-time clients. It is possible, it is good for revenue, profits, whatever. But if you can show a client actually stick with you for 6, 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, it's great. This is what buyers are looking for. You need to become a pro if you want to sell your agency, and it's not that hard. First things first, you need to niche down. So whether you niche down on your ICP, let's say realtors, for example, or e-commerce brands, well, this is very vague, but or you niche down on your service. So you only do Instagram growth, you're only doing PR, you're only doing management for e-commerce brands. You need to niche down on one of those things, otherwise you'll just get lost in the process. From there, you should start creating SOPs. Yes, test the water first, get some money in first so you know what's working and what's not, but make sure you create SOPs for everything. So outreach, inbound, how you treat them, how you go ahead and outreach clients, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, email, whatever it may be, you need to have systems for this, or at least operating protocols. From there, sales as well. What type of clients you onboard, how much you're charging, what's your payment structure like, how you identify their selling points, their pain points, and actually get to the sale. Now, lots of people forget about service delivery. This is the most important thing. You want to have retention in the business if you want to sell it, right? You can have horrible sales team and then someone will buy your agency, they will improve that, and they can actually grow the agency further, which is what they want, and you want to exit the agency, right? So make sure the service delivery is on point, make sure everything is on time, and you create actual SOPs for this. So You onboard a client. They need to go through this. They need to go through that. You make ads for them. You need to create a WhatsApp group chat with their advisor. You need to do this. You need to do that. And of course, client retention. How you go ahead and retain those clients. What if they want to leave? How you make sure they stay? How you make sure they're actually happy with what they're getting in your agency? And then once you have all of that, yes, you can hire VAs before that. Or if you're just burnt out, start hiring contractors from Latin America or Southeast Asia. But you need to make sure those things are actually in order. So you run a successful agency, you don't have someone stealing all of your information, giving it to another agency and so on. So first things first, sign NDAs with those contractors and also sign a non-compete if that's what you want. If you sell a lucrative service, make sure all of those contracts are in place before you hire or share any information with those contractors. One thing I actually like is blind horses. Yes, when you build a business, the workers, they will know each other, they will know what the business does. But in this case, you might actually want to lead those contractors as blind horses. So if your service is very lucrative and you don't want them to know everything about the business so they can just leave and start their own, you need to make sure they're only getting the tasks they need to get. You don't share too much information with them. So let's say they just do service delivery. Don't share how you get the clients. Don't share how you retain those clients as well. You want to lead them as blind horses. So they are only focused on what they need to do. And then train them until they know what to do so you can step out and focus on your next hire. And then you're actually left doing the important work, which is growing the agency further. Throughout all of this journey, you should always remain organized and documented. Everything you paid out, all the money you received, everything has to be documented, and I will get into it in a second. Just for instance, you can sell an agency making 2.5k profit a month, but it actually has to be an agency. It can't be off of one client. I know some guys are charging 500, 2k, 5k, 10k a month. If your agency only has one client, it's not an agency, you're just working for this one client. Now, let's get to the actual steps you need to do in order to sell your agency. First things first, you need to create a Google Drive or a Notion, whatever your company uses, with all the SOPs, CRMs, and everything that the agency actually revolves around. From there, you should create an executive summary, just explain what you do, what's your ICP, how you deliver your service, and why you're selling and how to grow the agency. Buyers don't want to buy something that's failing, so you actually need to think of ways you can grow the agency further. It's alright if you don't know how to do it yourself, but don't position it in a way where you're selling something that's failing. That's the main thing. From there, update your P&L to be up to date. It needs to have all of your income. So this client, that client, you got your payment on PayPal, you got it on Stripe, you got it via Bankwire, crypto, whatever it may be, it all needs to be on the P&L. From there, you can start listing on marketplaces and Facebook groups. You can list on Flippa, you can list on Acquire, Empire Flippers, and so on. But the best thing to do is to list with Wasabi, which is my brokerage. We help e-commerce brands, software, and agencies sell their businesses. We help you exit for the highest price possible, and we'll take you through the whole process, which will save you 90% of the headache here. From there, you should start chatting with buyers and avoid time wasters. If your agency is selling for 200k, 500k, that's not something many people can afford, and you want to verify they're not actually wasting your time. So get on calls with them, ask for proof of fund if needed, and then finally aim to get an LOI in place. An LOI is a letter of intent. They should outline how much they're looking to pay for the agency, if there are any special terms, if they want to use seller finance and so on, and aim to get it within the first month of listing. From there, you should start going through due diligence. So the buyer will need to verify the P&L with all of the documents I told you to start preparing beforehand. They need to verify all of the expenses and they need to verify all of the income. From there, agree on the final terms, the final selling price, and the final process, which is making the asset purchase agreement. Once you sign that, go on escrow and start a transaction and make sure the buyer deposits the money there. From there, the buyer will verify everything, they'll confirm everything, and then you'll get the money into your account. But that's not final. You should leave 30 to 90 days where you help them integrate into the agency, introduce them to the new contractors, introduce them to the clients, and make sure they know how to run those things properly.